In this episode with Adam Driver, we're brought to you by a couple of sponsors, and we're very grateful to them for helping us bring you the show. Sarah, who are these sponsors?
Alan, today's episode is brought to us by the Life is Good Ping podcast. So join co-founders of Life is Good, Bert and John Jacobs, as they talk to influential musicians and athletes, a bunch of business leaders, and everyday people about the role of optimism in their lives. They end each of the episodes with a ping pong charity challenge. This is a lot of fun, where the winner gets to donate to the charity of choice. The Life is Good Ping podcast kicked off in June, and their first guest was the legendary Ringo Starr. It's available and it's great to listen to. So subscribe now on Stitcher, Spotify, or iTunes, and add some good vibes to your day.
And who's our second sponsor today?
Well, Alan, if you're looking for some new podcast merchandise, you can shop the new Clear and Vivid collection, available only at Podswag.
What can I get?
Well, you can get a mug, t-shirt, and back by very popular demand, signed copies of the New York Times bestseller, If I Understood You, Would I Have This Look on My Face?
Well, I have that. I have a closet full of those, but I got to get the mug. I like that.
And the mug's great. It's wonderful for coffee. So shop the collection today at podswag.com/Alda. That's podswag.com/Alda.
I'm Alan Alda, and this is Clear and Vivid, conversations about connecting and communicating. You joined the Marines because of 9/11.
9/11, and also that I, felt this sense of, like most people, I think, are my age at that time, wanted to do something and get involved, but also like there wasn't a lot of opportunities where I was in Indiana. Being an actor, I was interested in it, but it didn't seem like a realistic thing that I could actually do at the time. I was working odd jobs, and so it was a collection of things, but that was the initial push.
Adam Driver was a dedicated Marine who became a huge star as an actor. And what an actor. He brings sensitivity, strength, and raw power to movie after movie. We talked in our Manhattan studio during his run on Broadway in the play Burn This, for which he was nominated for a Tony. Adam, this is so great. I'm so glad to be able to talk to you today because there's two things I don't want to do. I don't want to embarrass you, and I don't want to hurt your performances.
Oh, okay.
Because you got to do a performance on stage tonight. But I just got to tell you how spectacular I feel you are as an actor. I mean, just amazing.
Oh, thank you. That, as you know, means a lot coming from you. I love you.
Well, well, we're a little late, so good night, folks. Well, I mean, I saw you in 1 week in two performances, one that you're doing on the stage now in New York, Burn This.
Mm-hmm.
And then I saw you in the movie that we're in together. That's not coming out till the end of the year.
You saw Noah's movie.
Yeah, Noah Baumbach's new movie, which doesn't have a title yet as we speak. And they're two completely different characters that you play. And if somebody hadn't seen the other character, they'd say, yeah, he's wonderful, but of course that's who he is. He's just playing himself. And yet you found yourself in these two opposite people, and it looks like it's really you. But it's so spontaneous and full of life. And the two reasons that I don't want to barrage you with this too much is that I don't want to embarrass you, and I also don't want to hurt your performance, because sometimes praise hurts more than criticism. Do you find that?
Yeah. If someone's like, oh, I really like that moment when you did that thing, then when you're doing it again, you can't help but think of like, oh, this is a good moment.
Right.
I've been told.
And from then on, it stinks.
Yeah. Right. Then it loses its... you think of it on the outside as opposed to why you're doing it to begin with, which is all very internal.
And you have an interesting beginning to your acting career, it seems to me. But you came to acting after a life in the Marines.
Yeah.
You joined the Marines because of 9/11.
Yeah, shortly after, yeah.
And you were young. How old were you?
18. It was 9/11, and also that I felt this sense of, like most people, I think, are my age at that time, wanted to do something and get involved, but also like there wasn't a lot of opportunities where I was in Indiana. You know, being an actor, I was interested in it, but it didn't seem like a realistic thing that I could actually do at the time. I was working odd jobs, and so it was a collection of things. But that was the initial push, was 9/11.
Did that give you experience that you wouldn't ordinarily have had?
Oh, totally. I mean, it's a kind of ultimate actor training in a way. You're especially for that time and my age, because you're with, 40 guys who are in very heightened circumstances all the time. So behavior is very, everything else is heightened. There's a threat of death, kind of, even when you're training.
Wait a minute. They shoot real bullets. You have to crawl under real bullets at one point?
Yeah, you do. And
what
you're
the hell is the point of that?
Well, it's all just making it real. Like these are there's a difference between firing blanks and firing real bullets. So suddenly you're like, oh, okay, the weight of, not the physical weight, obviously, but the weight of what it is we're doing, suddenly the temperature goes up. And how do you respond to that under pressure? It just makes you, I think, appreciate life more at a very young age, where in the civilian world, you're not really put in that opportunity a lot, where you're with your civilian friends hanging out and something happens. When you're in a military environment and something bad happens and you watch people rise to the occasion and protect you, you don't really get that a lot in the civilian world. And it's very bonding in a short amount of time. And that's exactly what kind of acting is, to kind of make an external comparison. You're forced to be intimate with complete strangers in a short amount of time and keep nothing back. And it kind of makes strange bedfellows. You have somebody from Texas, you have somebody who's trying to get their green card, or, some from Indiana in my case, all kind of together doing this job, who outside of the military have nothing in common. But because of this job that they're doing, they're, like brothers. And you have one guy who's leading it. You have a director or a squad leader, and sometimes they're smart and know what they're doing. And in the case of Noah, or sometimes they don't, and what you're doing feels dangerous and a waste of time and energy.
Yes, right.
There's a lot of discipline required. There's self-maintenance. There's working as a cohesive unit to accomplish a mission that's bigger than any one person. You have one role, and you have to do your role really well so everybody else can do their role really well.
But you're very much aware of being part of a group.
Yes, yeah. The ensembleness of being in the military was great training for me, as far as being on a film set or being a TV show, or especially in theater.
But you had an accident and weren't able to be deployed with your teammates.
Right, yeah.
And you were regretful about that.
Oh, yeah. I really wanted to go. All the politics that I had before I joined the military, which I didn't really know much about anything. They kind of go away once you're in the military, I think. I can't speak for everyone else. But for me, whatever was going on outside our nucleus I didn't take it in very much. I wanted to go because you want to be with the guys that you've been with since the beginning. And to not, do your part and have someone else fill it in is a terrible feeling.
What was your accident that kept you from going overseas?
I was in a mountain biking accident. Like I bought these 2 mountain bikes, and a friend of mine went to go PT on her own on this huge mountain that was
PT,
physical training, but on your own. Because we had like a different briefing that morning, so we missed PT with the rest of the platoon, and we were going up this huge mountain. I had no experience in riding mountain bikes, and went down this hill at like Mach speed and hit a ditch, and the handlebars went in my chest and dislocated or broke my sternum. So then I had to kind of walk down the rest of the mountain, because it wasn't even though
holding your sternum in one hand.
Yeah, and because of that, it was like a whole series of because it takes a long time to heal. You can either have them kind of fix it for you, or it'll heal naturally. And I'm like, so I had
So what did you do?
I just let it heal naturally, but it takes time, So they dropped me to a different unit, and from there I was medically separated.
I found when I was in the infantry, but in the reserve, so it wasn't really serious. They tried to teach me how to be an officer twice, once in the reserves and once on active duty for 6 months. And I did learn stuff that I use to this day.
You did learn stuff?
I did. Organizing, because they were trying to help me learn how to be a leader. And I used that when I directed a movie. I directed a movie called Sweet Liberty where I had 200 colonial soldiers in a battle scene. And that could take days to shoot. But I organized it because I had learned to organize things.
Right.
And I had 7 stuntmen each teach a group of these soldiers in 7 different operations, 7 different events, battle events.
Oh.
And then I put them on the field so no 2 were the same next to one another. So it was all 7 things happening many times over down the line.
Huh.
And with 7 cameras, we had this battle scene that took only 2 hours to shoot instead of days. Right. And that was because I had been accustomed to organizing. So I can understand how service has so many applications in real life that we don't imagine.
I think that's also what's hard to convey to the civilians about the military as it is, think of it as a group that's just drills and discipline and pain, but it is this organization that's run by people, and those people have families on top of these incredibly stressful jobs. And that's why it's always great to kind of hire a veteran, because you're going to get someone on the whole, not always obviously, but who's just more organized, who's used to being put in a given responsibility at a very early age, who's told to just execute this, whatever mission or plan,
right,
or agenda, and it's going to be done thoughtfully. It's kind of infinite. For me, it was very helpful. Maybe not for everybody, but for me, it was helpful.
I heard you say once. I don't know. Maybe you did a really interesting TED talk. Maybe it was in that talk. And you said when you went to Juilliard and started studying acting, you said you were becoming less aggressive and learning to put words to feelings.
Yeah.
What was that? What was that about?
I mean, no disrespect to where I was from, but I wasn't raised where language was a huge an avenue to express yourself. Theater wasn't a part of my diet. Really. In Indiana, and I feel like the power of theater, one of the powerful things about theater is watching it live. And for me, coming out of the military, reading True West, the Sam Shepard play, suddenly you have a play about brothers who, really could be about 2 sides of the same person, kind of being tied to your genetics, or maybe you're different from, your acquired family and your actual family. Like all these themes that I noticed in that play, or lots of plays that I was reading at that time, all these great contemporary American plays were articulating my military experience better than I could have. And when you suddenly are finding words to those feelings that you have, I mean, especially as a male in your 20s, just angry about everything anyway. I mean, maybe that's just me. But
well, that was me too.
Yeah, that you were suddenly having being able to use words to articulate it by people who are a lot smarter than you. Was really powerful. Then suddenly it's like, okay, I know what this is. I can label it now.
You started this wonderful organization called Arts in the Armed Forces, and I've seen it at work a little bit. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, it started in my second year at Juilliard, where I just come from the military, and suddenly it was in this, artistic acting environment, and it could not seemingly be 2 polar opposite things. And for the first time was really discovering plays and playwrights and characters that had nothing to do with the military at all, but were somehow articulating my military experience and just being, life in general in a way that I hadn't been able to articulate myself before, and kept thinking of the troop entertainment that I was exposed to when I was just in the military, because I just came from that environment, which was all well-intended, but I felt like played to the lowest common denominator. And if there's one community that I felt like could benefit from being exposed to a new means of self-expression would be people that were asking to protect our country, who are given this stressful.
So you would bring them plays,
so
with nuance and dense experiences.
Yeah, we just decided to pick, cultivate a group of plays that we would bring with no sets, no costumes, no lights, just reading the material and perform them for a military audience and have a conversation afterwards about their thoughts on it. And we did our first one actually as a collection of monologues. We just picked, a cross-section of monologues that had nothing to do with the military and just read them. And we went to Camp Pendleton, where I was stationed at, because every military base basically around the country has a group space that they use for training. In Camp Pendleton's case, it's a movie theater that is empty. They play movies, but it's also this amazing stage that is unused as a theatrical space. So we literally went and passed out flyers and tried to get in contact with the MWR, which is Military Wellness something. I'm forgetting the acronym right now. But who help kind of cultivate performances on base. And a lot of people came skeptical of what it is we were doing. They didn't understand what monologues were. Are the actors, do they write the plays themselves? It was anyway, we advertised and, 100 people came. We had Laura Linney, my friend John Batiste, who plays for Stephen Colbert. Right. Now he came, they played jazz along with all these other actors, David Denman and Tracy Toms, my classmate Gabe Ebert, myself, and we just read these monologues. And the connection was immediate. They understood immediately what we were kind of going for. And plays that I picked because I thought they were funny. That, for example, we picked this one monologue from this play called China by Scott Organ, where it's an employer reprimanding her employee for not wearing a bra, for not following a dress code. And I picked it because I thought it was funny. And it is really funny. And the male Marines were leaving the audience being like, I thought it was great. The whole thing was good to go. I thought that one monologue was kind of an indirect attack on why we do things in the military, that there's a structure and a uniform in place for a reason. And all the female Marines were leaving that performance being like, I thought the whole thing was good to go, especially that monologue, because I know what it's like to be a female in a male-dominated organization. I have to wear my hat under my cover, I have to hide any kind of sexuality, and, a very shapeless uniform. And so it was all that. That's so exciting. That's what theater can be. It can piss you off. It can make you laugh, So we decided to try to keep doing this in our spare time. Juilliard's a conservatory, so we would literally go to class, and in the 15 minutes that we're supposed to transfer to the next class, go down to the computer lab and try to send Hail Mary emails to actors that we loosely knew, to see if we can organize this thing. And over time, over the 10 years that we've been doing it now, it went from one performance a year to the 15 that we're already doing this year, where we travel to different military bases from, Germany to Kuwait to, performance on Broadway, which you came to, our 10th anniversary, to, Walter Reed Medical Center. We're going to Fort Meade in a little bit. We're going to Marine Corps Mountain Training in California in the next couple months. And we just read these monologues without a kind of, we don't lead them to say what it's about. We don't say it's a mental health initiative. We'll read the play Tape sometimes by Stephen Belber, which is centered around a rape, but we don't say it's about, sexual assault in the military. They kind of pull what it is. We don't advertise it as some kind of mental health initiative. It's just, reading the best of contemporary American plays for an audience. And the idea that they wouldn't understand that, which is what we were told by different military organizations that I reached out to try to help us fund this, that, that doesn't fit the demographic of the military, just made me enraged. So we created our own organization that did that.
So now is it easier for you to raise funds now that you've proven that it works?
Totally. Yeah, it's a lot easier. And the actors is now, for the first time, we have bases reaching out to us to come, because word of mouth is kind of spread, and actors reach out to us all the time. And we've been so lucky with the actors that we get to go to these bases and just read these plays. And the response is exactly what you want, I think, in theater. We were talking about it a little bit, that, I've never seen a play before. I didn't know theater could be this way. Something about seeing it live is more dangerous and exciting. I feel like we're exposing them to this new way of expressing themselves, potentially. And for the civilians that we bring, it's exposure to a culture that they never would have been exposed to.
Yeah.
So right now immediately the humanity between and misconceptions between both communities goes away.
Yeah.
Centered around this story,
Yeah.
And the talk back afterwards that was, mandatory and or not mandatory, but it's mandatory for us to have, is the best part of the whole thing, because the conversation that certain plays that we do spark is, it's the most exciting part about getting to be an actor. The most inspiring part.
I wanted to ask you about that. What kind of things do you hear from people? I mean, are they experiencing a play, many of them for the first time?
Yeah, a lot of them are. I've never seen a play before. I've never seen a play on Broadway. It's too expensive. Our events are free. I didn't know theater could be like that. Things that you're like, oh, that's what you kind of hope to hear. After
it made a difference in my life. Somehow.
Yeah, something about seeing it live is different than watching it on movie. Seemingly simple things, but that's pretty powerful. We've been really lucky with Burn This. I try to go out and sign for people after the show and talk to them a little bit. And I feel like I don't know if it's just every show on Broadway, and I just haven't done a play in a while, but the response of people saying I've never seen a play, or this is my first time being to the theater, has been a lot for our play, which has been really
You're in
exciting.
This nice position probably of drawing people because of the success of the Star Wars picture.
Maybe.
Or drawing people who may not have thought of going to the theater in the first place.
Yeah, whatever it is, I'll take it. It's exciting. I mean, it's like this is one of my favorite mediums. I have seen things in theater that are so long lasting, and exciting and scary that you just kind of can't get with other, film or television.
When we come back, Adam Driver and I explore our experiences of acting in the theater compared with acting on film or television, and how acting on the stage is both scary and liberating. Ciao, Sera. Dimmi, che cosa?
Hola, Alan. ¿Qué tal?
Oh boy, we need Babbel right now.
We do. And conveniently, Babbel is the language learning app that will get you speaking a new language quickly and with confidence. So I'll understand what you're saying in Italian and you can understand my Spanish.
I can understand myself.
With Babbel, you can choose from 14 different languages, including Spanish, French, Italian, and German, and speak with confidence. So Babbel's teaching method and speech recognition technology has been proven to be effective across multiple studies, and it's designed to quickly get you speaking your new language within weeks. And Babbel's lessons are lovingly created by over 100 language experts. This is actually by real people and not by a translation machine. So lessons are engaging and convenient, and they last only about 10 to 15 minutes. So you can learn interactive dialogues so you can perfect your pronunciation and your accent. All it takes is a few easy steps to speak a new language with confidence. So go to Babbel.com or download the app. You can select the language of your choice and try it for free. That's Babbel, Babbel.com. And with Babbel, speak a new language with confidence.
Perfetto.
Muy bien, gracias.
Oh, no. This is Clear and Vivid, and now back to my conversation with Adam Driver. How do you feel about the difference between acting on the stage and acting in a film? The experience of the performance. I mean,
I'd also be interested to hear what you think about this, too. They're just totally different to me. Even film kind of feels like theater to me, but just for a smaller audience, Yeah. The benefit of doing theater is you get more satisfied in that if you don't get it right, you have another shot.
The next night.
Right.
Yeah.
I have a really bad, remorse sometimes when you're shooting a movie if you feel like you haven't, you always go back to the hotel or wherever and you just think about it all
I'll
night.
never get another chance to make that better. I wanted to make a short once about the camera looking into the windshield of a car and an actor is driving and he's just come from an audition, and he does the 1 minute scene over and over again.
Yes, that's exactly it. Yeah.
We can't let go.
That's 100% true.
Yeah, the thing I love about the stage, probably the most, is I call it the ecstasy of the experience that's uninterrupted. The curtain goes up, and for the next 2 hours, you're in that white-hot moment that if it goes wrong, you can't take it back for that performance. You can make it better the next night, but it's happening live.
Right.
Your experience is heightened by it, and you have final cut.
Right.
You have the responsibility of having final cut, and you have the freedom of having it.
Right.
And that's all very exciting to me.
Yeah, and you're on this kind of quest for perfection that'll never get there.
You never get there.
Yeah.
And you have to learn eventually that it is what it is.
Right.
I mean, I second-guessed my performances probably for 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then I thought, it's over. It's done with. The reality is that's what happened.
Right.
And next time it'll happen a different way. And I can't decide to make it better. It's going to get better by itself.
And the audience makes it kind of that too every night because they're a different audience. The collective intelligence is always different every night. So
isn't that interesting how that happens?
Yeah.
They develop a personality, a group personality.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes it's because of a simple reason, like I was doing Our Town in London on the stage.
Oh, yeah.
And there are a lot of I love Our Town.
Yeah.
I did it because I just wanted to sit off stage and listen to the language every night.
Yeah, you were the narrator?
Yeah, I was the stage manager.
Oh, stage manager.
The character of the stage manager.
Yeah.
And one night, there were a lot of laughs in that show. And one night, we weren't getting any laughs. And I thought, well, I know audiences have different personalities, but this is ridiculous. What's happening here? It turned out the entire theater came by bus from Poland. That was an extreme example.
We had a night like that like a month ago where everyone seemed very tired and I was like, what's going on? And afterwards it was a problem with the air conditioning, and I guess in the house it was just really hot, And
when I did a play about Richard Feynman called QED, Richard Feynman was a great American physicist, and he he helped develop the atomic bomb and got very depressed after it was used. And in the play, as Feynman, I talk about sitting in a place in a restaurant in Times Square and imagining how much death and destruction would occur, how many miles out from Times Square if the bomb were to explode there. And when we did it in California, there was silence in the audience when I got to that speech. When we did it in New York a few months later, it was 3 weeks after 9/11. They were more silent. It didn't seem possible that they could be even more silent. And we talked about it afterwards. And the director said, I think I know what it is. Tonight, they weren't even breathing when you talked about that. It just, because the event had made such an impression on everybody that to call up the image of an explosion again was so powerful. And to be aware of that when you're on the stage, when you have this awareness that something is happening to these people, not just laughter, but very often you can hear them when they're weeping, you can hear them reaching into their pocketbooks for handkerchiefs.
Right.
And there are all kinds of clues you get, or utter silence. And that's an example of communication between the artist and the audience. I'm sensing that you have that experience too. Not that I don't mean to say that you're performing for the audience's reaction. I don't think that's in the forefront of our minds when we act.
No, and it's also not at all, because everyone brings, I mean, even just what you were talking about that story, it's what's also interesting giving that speech post September 11th is the circumstances that have happened outside the theater. So obviously in that example are affecting what's going on inside the theater. And a smaller level, that's the same thing that happens every night is everyone brings their stuff inside. No one lives there. No one. I heard Tony Kushner say this articulately once, and I'm going to butcher it, but I'm and try to claim it as my own. But
once you butcher it, you can.
Yeah, right.
In fact, you have to.
Right. So I had this thought the other day. No one lives inside the theater. Everyone, it's not. We go outside and we, get divorced or to pay our taxes or get married or something good happens, and then you bring it all inside the theater and we all collect. Even the actors. Actors are like. They get stuck in traffic or the bus, doesn't come or whatever. Had food too close to the their vocal cords. Anyway, we all bring it in. And meet for 2 hours and, have this kind of almost archaic version of communicating where it's one guy or a couple people in front screaming out this story that has to be urgent. And whatever they bring to it, they pull a detail that you wouldn't have thought of because you're not from, Queens or you're not from, Florida, whatever they're bringing in their life. And they pick a moment or a costume or a lighting effect that they aren't conscious of or a line of dialogue that maybe doesn't mean anything to you, but suddenly opens something up for them. And so why it's beyond your responsibility. Your responsibility is just to say it, not even to feel anything, but just to mean it and tell the truth. And whatever that effect is, maybe alleviate stress that it's not your responsibility. I think that kind of.
Do you get together with the other actors at all before the performance? Or do you see them for the first time on stage?
No, we actually have a fight call because we have a fight, as you know.
And it's really well done.
Oh, good, yeah.
Wow.
Stage fights.
I once had a minor version of that in a play.
Oh, really?
And all I had to do was walk up to the guy and grab him by the lapels. And I hurt my little pinky finger.
Yeah, we used to have this moment in Burn This where I grab a pillow and slam it on the couch, and we have this massive fight, as you know, and that's always been fine. But when I one time early when we were in previews, grabbed this pillow and stubbed my finger. It was like,
thank you, I'm glad to hear that.
And it was swollen for 2 months. It's still kind of swollen.
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, right.
The smallest thing can get you.
Right. Meanwhile, we're like WWF, wrestling.
So you have the fight call every night, and that brings you together.
Yeah, that's kind of turned into our, the fight call lasts like maybe a minute, and then we spend the rest of the 10 minutes or rest of the 9 minutes, talking about what we did that day. That wasn't planned.
I think that's so great. And I learned that when we were doing MASH. Instead of going to our dressing rooms between shots, which can take an hour sometimes or 2 hours while they light the next set.
Right.
We would sit around in a circle and make fun of each other. Just laugh.
It's very much like the military.
Yeah. Right. And we'd take that togetherness that we had established off camera and just carry it right into the next scene.
Right.
So that we still had that same contact, but now it was in terms of the lines of the scene.
Yeah.
And I'd love to hear examples of people who found similar ways to do that same kind of creation of a connection.
Noah does that. I feel like he, also because when we were shooting, the trailers were so far from where we were actually shooting.
We had to stick together.
You kind of had to stay together.
Yeah.
But Soderbergh is another example of that, Steven Soderbergh, because he moves so fast, there's no time to go back and do whatever. I can't do anything on sets anyway. Like I've tried to I'll read a book.
I tried to write a screenplay once.
Oh, really?
It was really crappy. You can't think of two things at once.
Yeah, I can't at all. And they're like 12-hour, 14-hour days, so you can't. But for Soderbergh sets, they're like, they break for lunch and that's the end of the day. He moves so quickly that he'll because usually on a set, as there's the camera operator, the director, and he's doing all of it. So everyone
he does all those jobs.
Yeah, he is operating the camera. He's figuring out the lights. It's all pretty much practical lights.
Great.
If they bring in,
you don't rehearse much.
Not a lot. No, we'll run through it. And he's like, oh, is that what you're going to do? Okay. He'll come in and be like, okay, that's fine. I'll build it around what you're doing. And he'll have an idea here and there, but it's very silent and focused. And often what you're talking about has nothing to do with the scene at all. And so he'll pick it up. Everyone's kind of like following him, seeing what he's going to do. And all the conversations that you're used to seeing between the director and
he's having it in his head.
So he'll just grab a beanbag and put it down. And
the beanbag is what he puts the camera on?
Yeah,
I see.
And he'll just set it down and he'll stop you in the scene where he knows he's going to cut. He's like, no need to go from there. I'm just getting it for this.
Wow.
That's it.
So he's cutting it in his head already.
Yeah. He'll look at a scene for a long time and then suddenly it's I've talked about this a lot, so I feel fine speaking for him. But he'll if he can't figure it out, he'll think about it for a while. But as soon as he sees it, it's like he can't shoot it fast enough, and he likes the momentum, and because of which the actors, no one goes anywhere. Everyone's staying on set, and often you don't get a lot of time, as you know, to meet some of the actors before you start working on film.
I got introduced to two actresses on the first day of a Woody Allen movie. Two actresses. One was supposed to be my sister, and the other was supposed to be my mistress. I said hello, and they said, okay, ready?
Right, and your lovers.
Yeah, right. Well, that thing of getting to know other people, it seems to me, getting to know the people you're going to act with seems to me to be so important. And I once read that Kurosawa in Japan thought that the most important part of preparing for a movie was to take the actors out to dinner and get them to, not just once, but repeatedly so they could get to know one another.
Yeah, I love that idea. Oh, it just feels like a company. I feel like all those Cassavetes movies where all their, I imagine, the Gina Rowlands and Peter Falk all just kind of like around eating dinner, then someone has a camera and suddenly they're kind of doing it.
Right.
It just creates a lot of like that's what I feel like also when you're with people. I always have the tendency, especially with directors, to if you're having like a private thing or if there's like a personal thing that a scene opens up for you, that I feel like you got to share it. I feel like you got to tell. You have to.
What do you mean?
I feel like you have to kind of make it as personal as possible, and to keep it to yourself seems like. It doesn't really help the scene, maybe. Where it's like maybe there's a conversation that you can have that makes it just more personal, that makes it deeper. If you're having
I think that connection, so much comes out of that. Do you agree with this? Maybe you don't. That even if you're playing antagonists, one of you is the villain and the other is being exploited by the villain.
Right.
One theory is that you don't talk to each other on the set. You treat each other like the enemies that you are, and almost like the enemies that you are in the play. I don't think so. I think you can trade looks and trade innuendos much better if you're used to picking up clues from the other person's face and voice and that kind of thing.
Right.
And then when both of you enter into the circumstances of the play, you're committed to that in your imagination, but you're able to deepen the connection between you if you've been partners off stage, off camera before that. Does that strike a bell with you, or do you think it's better to keep it going, keep the animosity alive off camera?
I don't know. I think it. I don't know. I don't have an answer. I like the idea of that. I like the idea that you've established trust. And if you trust the other person because you found something that you bond over, then when you trust someone, you feel comfortable to fail in front of you, just to go as deep as possible. I feel that is a general rule.
I would say it's a little like if you're doing a wrestling match. And you throw each other into the air and hit them in the face with your feet and everything. It's really a lot safer if you know how this guy behaves before you get in the ring with him.
Right. It can be done the other way. It just maybe won't be as effective.
Or it might wind up with a broken neck.
Right. Yeah, I can definitely see how people could be contentious off screen. No one would know. And that's what goes on behind the door, it's kind of like it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Sometimes that reads as really good cooperative playing,
Sure,
ensemble playing. Diana Sands and I were very competitive on stage. We were in a 2-character play together called the Owl and the Pussycat a long time ago, and we were so competitive. We had improvised together in an improvising company a year before. We knew each other really well, but each one of us was trying to take over the play from the other. It's not something I recommend, but we were so on one another's case on stage that people said, "Wow, what ensemble performing!" So we have to end this wonderful conversation. It's been wonderful for me. I hope it's been fun to listen to.
Yeah.
The way we end our shows, I don't know if you know this, is I ask you 7 quick questions, hoping you'll get 7 quick answers.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it's not painful. It's roughly to do with communicating and relating.
Okay.
Let's see how it comes out. What do you wish you really understood?
My job.
Oh.
I mean, that's a long list.
I saw you in your job. You don't need to know much more.
I need to know a lot. I feel like even like older actors who I met or worked with, they still, I always saw them be like tortured by what it is they're doing. I'm like, oh, that's both comforting and terrifying that you never figure it out.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah. I agree with that. What do you wish other people understood about you?
Oof, I understood about me. Nothing. I'm good.
What's the strangest question anyone has ever asked you?
Oof, strangest question anyone's ever asked me. Well, the other day I came out because I took a shower after the show because it was a 2-show day, and someone asked me, "What were you doing?" Like, why did it take you so long to come out? And I'm like, how do I get into this?
How do I get out of it?
Yeah, it was a little sticky, so I just took a shower.
Here's one. How do you stop a compulsive talker?
Yeah, I feel like you have to look if you know they're a compulsive talker, you have to look for an exit, I think, as soon as they start talking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, or fake a
heart attack. Is there anyone for whom you just can't feel empathy?
I mean, it's hard to not be general, I guess, with that, because I feel like I try to find something empathetic about people, but I can't. I don't understand organized hatred. I can't understand the groups, and this is speaking generally. I know, but who persecute against another group because of something they don't understand. That could be lots of different groups. I know it's general, but like I just can't understand that. I don't. Right. I feel like that's such a missed opportunity. To know something different other than. We live, travel is an amazing thing, and it makes you so aware of, we're alive for such a short amount of time.
Right. Why waste it?
Why waste it sitting in the same room doing the same thing, feeling like you're right?
It's a little bit like one person's answer to that question, which was, I have no empathy for people who have no empathy.
Right. Yes. That's a better answer.
And you explored that idea a little bit. How do you like to deliver bad news? In person, on the phone, or by carrier pigeon?
Person.
You like it?
Yeah. I think it's rare, and I always appreciate it, especially if it's a hard conversation. I feel straight up and to the point, I feel.
All right, here's the last one. What, if anything, would make you end a friendship? It's important for me to know.
Yeah. Podcasts.
Okay, well, this one's over. Thank you so much. What a great talk. I enjoyed talking with you guys.
Yeah, I love talking to you.
This has been clear and vivid. At least I hope so. My thanks to the sponsors of this episode. All the income from the ads you hear go to the Center for Communicating Science at Stony Brook University. Just by listening to this podcast, you're contributing to the better communication of science. So thank you. For more information about the Alda Center, please visit aldacenter.org. As a United States Marine, Adam Driver trained at Camp Pendleton, and as an actor, he trained at Juilliard. They're both grueling in their own way, and they certainly helped to shape the accomplished person that Adam is today. Adam is the founder and guiding light behind the nonprofit Arts in the Armed Forces. This organization serves all branches of the U.S. military at home and abroad, and the team of actors and volunteers chooses creative works and content that feature diverse themes, so there's always something relatable for the audience to experience. To learn more about Arts in the Armed Forces, please visit AITAF.org. You can see Adam in a number of recently released films, including Star Wars: The Last Jedi and Steven Soderbergh's Logan Lucky, as well as The Man Who Killed Don Quixote, directed by Terry Gilliam, and Spike Lee's Black Klansman. Adam and I will also be in a movie together that gets released in a few months. The film is by Noam Baumbach, and it also stars Scarlett Johansson. So look for us both together again later this year. This episode was produced by Graham Chedd with help from our associate producer, Sarah Chase. Our sound engineer is Dan DeZula, our tech guru is Allison Costin, and our publicist is Sarah Hill. You can subscribe to our podcast for free at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you like to listen. For more details about Clear and Vivid and to sign up for my newsletter, please visit alanalda.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Clear and Vivid, and I'm on Twitter at Alan Alda. Thanks for listening. Bye-bye. Next in our series of conversations, I talk with Frans de Waal, a scientist whose life's mission is to show us that we're not as different from other animals as we like to think we are. He spends a lot of his time with chimpanzees.
Yeah, the male chimps are very opportunistic. They're always after power. And so if I can get it with your support, I will do that. But if I meet a better friend or one who is a bit stronger or a bit more loyal than you are, I will switch to the other friend.
Oh, so it's like Congress.
Yeah, it is like politicians. But it's only the males who are like that. The females, they stick with their friends. They never have a conflict with their friends for some reason. I don't know how they manage to do that. But the males are very strategic and always opportunistic and always changing position.
Frans de Waal on what we can learn about ourselves from our animal relatives. Next time on Clear and Vivid. To listen to these podcasts, you can subscribe for free at Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or wherever you listen.